right. How's everybody doing? Good.
Great.
We are here. We are back. Um, my voice doesn't sound nearly as bad as it did, and hopefully I'll be able to make it through this whole thing without it cracking up. We've got some special guests here today, but before we dive in, let's do what we do and mention our top sponsors. We have a very special thanks to FPEA as one of our top sponsors. They are listed and soon to be joined by others, probably around the first of the year. We've got a couple of conversations in the works, and we're happy about those. We're waiting on some specific things that, quite frankly, are kind of falling into place, which is good. But we're thankful, very thankful to our top sponsors. Show them love. I think the FPEA convention is, they've been announcing it. They've been opening up to vendors. So if you're a vendor and you're looking forward to that, go check it out. We're looking forward to being there too. Um, and then also, very quickly, I will say, let's come over here and show our recognition walls. You can find this right on our website, um, our recognition wall, and it shows many of our early got in early and have been supporting us since we turned this on, and we're extremely thankful for all of the support. It really helps us do what we need to do. I think we are about a third of the way to our first plan phase of how much we need to kind of break into our first planning stage of what we're trying to do. So we are still in need of our loyal supporting sponsors. If you, and of course, everything that we do, as we've said before, is solely funded by those who see what we do and believe in what we do. And want to support it. And we just added ClassSource recently. We thank them so much for coming on as a one of our vendor sponsors, which is great. If you see any of these that you know and love, like the Homeschool Hive or something, we're here in Hillsboro right now, which is going to change soon as well. But if you see any of these that you're local to, show them some love as they're showing us some love. And without further ado, Brenda, we have a visitor with us today. Do you want to introduce them?
We do. We're so delighted to have Kim Hannon with us today. She and Corey, tell me Corey's last name.
Courtney Vinson.
Courtney Vinson were the movers and shakers behind the Tampa Bay Homeschool Conference, and they did such a fabulous job. I sort of tapped her and said, "Hey, we need your help." Um, HEF has had a vision for probably 5 years to move into some opportunities for students that are not being offered anywhere else. And Kim is such a good planner and organizer. And so she is going to be the person who's heading up our new opportunity that we're fixing to announce. Now, let me give you a little background. I felt like going back even to 2010, when the legislature started talking about career and technical programs to be put into the state colleges, I felt like there was something that we needed to get out to homeschoolers. And it's such a different direction for parents that I made several talks to different homeschool groups. And most people looked at me like a deer in a headlight. And so it was hard to change the conversation from let's go to college and get a 4-year degree to an alternative. I kept trying to study and understand what they were talking about. What was industry certifications? How did those apply? How do you get those? Where do you get them? And then the walkthrough with one of our board members in trying to get approved for her training program in IT to be eligible to offer classes to homeschoolers and other individuals. And her program offers cybersecurity and different kinds of training programs. So, in the process, beginning in about 2010, I met a man in Pasco County who had a vision of getting these career and technical programs into the schools. And it was a long fight because because I just don't think people understand what we're talking about when we talk about industry certifications versus degrees from universities. And so
Sure,
you have
certainly.
to kind of rethink everything. So anyway, fast forward in 2017, 2018, I started working on creating a 501c3 and was successful in getting the approval for it. Then COVID hit, and we never did
Mm.
anything with it. It's just been sitting there waiting for something to happen.
Got you.
Well, last summer, we had some very successful meetings with Kim, and then in the fall, we went to a facility called AmSkills in
Hmm.
Holiday, which is just north of Tampa, maybe 30 miles, 40 miles.
Yeah,
Not even.
Huh?
yeah, roughly.
I don't even think even that far. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
right there.
Near the coast,
Mhm.
and toured their facility, and it was
It
mind-boggling what
was
they have
fantastic.
to
My
offer.
mind was blown that day, I'll be
Yeah.
honest. Yeah, it was incredible to recognize that something like that is available in the Tampa Bay area.
Had no idea.
For those of you who are in this area, the opportunity, that's what I walked out of there, my mind reeling with the opportunity for our kids
Absolutely.
as
Hmm.
homeschooling students to be outside the box their entire educational career and then to shove them in a box to go to college.
Hmm.
This just opens up so many doors for kids. And I think Jason, at some point that day, you were kind of, we were talking, and it was like we have this old school notion of what a factory job looks like, right? Quote unquote
Right.
factory job. You picture these horrible working conditions in this dirty factory, and
Hmm.
the what they're doing at AmSkills is high level, high educational, highly
Yeah.
intelligent. I mean,
Tech.
Yeah.
they were using words I didn't even know. Like I walked out of there, I could not
Mechatronics.
explain to you what exactly they do, but it is amazing, and I know so many kids who could
I felt like it
benefit
was
from it.
halfway between a Transformers movie
Right?
and like a
I'm like, there's
career
this
choice,
robot
right?
dog running around.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. It was wild. It was wild.
yeah.
So
And
if Shara is
some of
on
the
somewhere,
outcomes
tag
of the
her.
training of that program for the kids that had been through it was far beyond what you could get by going through a college program.
Yeah.
Right. And what
Oh,
was the
absolutely.
statistic they shared? Was it Peter that shared um, in the next 5 years, right? Beyond 5 years from now, over 70% of career opportunities are going to require more than high school, but less than college education. So that means these
Hmm.
higher level paying jobs where students are going to be financially successful, they don't need
Hmm.
a college degree for it. They need something more than just high school, right? But they
Certainly.
don't need college. And the burden of the financially what comes with getting a college degree, I mean, I know my husband, we paid off college debt. I mean, it was really not that long ago. We were in our mid 30s still
Congratulations.
paying off college debt. Like it's crazy,
Yeah.
you know?
So let me take a pause real quick and talk to our audience here. Daleen, obviously, first off, love to have you with us. We're so glad you're here. She's always first, I think, to be here. Also, this is the conversation that I think many of you have been waiting for. So if you see Shara anywhere, or if you don't see her, tag her. Make sure she's here for this conversation. I think this is one she was waiting on, because a lot of our families have hopes and dreams for their kids' success, right? I think every one of us do. That's a given. But then some of us have the idea that like maybe, just maybe, college isn't for my kids for whatever reason. Maybe I don't like woke ideology, or maybe I trust them not to be woke, but I just don't see the need. It's a big ticket expense, and I'm like, how can I efficiently get my kid where they want to be. Sometimes you got to go to college. It is what it is. Like if you want to be a lawyer, yeah, you're gonna have to. You're gonna have to go to college. Like it is what it is. There's a path for that. So it's not to knock on college in general as a whole, but I think as the default, Crystal and I were talking about this the other day, as like that default mindset of like the only track, and to tread away from this track is somehow not only like taboo, but like you're in no man's land. If you don't like the assumption that we come to it with, like this is the only way to get by in life. Um, I know that when I sat as a freshman in my first year in college after high school, they told us that people who have a college degree, a bachelor's degree, make X amount of money more per year than those without. And I have to say that aside from the joy of having them, I can't say that any of my college degrees have put money into my pocket. They've only
Nope.
taken it out. And most of the people that I know that went and got one are not working in the field that they got their degree in. For whatever joy of learning they had that took them in that path, they all had to like make ends meet at the end of the day, and it didn't end up using their college degree, but they still had to pay for it. We still had to pay for it. So I think that there's a bit of a man behind the curtain syndrome, to quote the Wizard of Oz, pay no attention. I am the great and powerful path to success. I think we're pulling the curtain back on that a little bit and saying, hey, is there a quicker route, right? Is there a way to click our heels and skip a couple steps and
Yeah.
get into success?
Yeah.
And um, when I stepped into this AmSkills facility and was looking around, it was phenomenal. Like the giant robot arms and the machines that they have, and I start to and they talk about the level of not immense programming, but you still got to know. Like you still got to be certified. You still have to know because you don't just have to run the machine. You need to be able to troubleshoot it when it's
Mhm.
not when the arm stops or when it's not working or what the kickback was. And there's a level of programming that's needed. Sure, certainly, like robots or arms or mechanical structures are doing a lot of the heavy lifting of jobs that used to take backs to do. That's a given. That's fine, but they still have to be cleaned and maintained, programmed, and worked on by someone. And there's many jobs available like that for people, and they pay well right out of the gate. Um, and it just the money that they were saying that paid well right out of the gate. I was like, man, that would have saved me from having to do those 3 jobs that I did coming out of college to make ends meet. Like, that's fantastic. That's
Mhm.
fantastic. And they're all certifications and training needed, and safety is important. And so anyway, there are alternative routes, and we were surprised to discover such a reserve and such like a wellspring of support and
Mhm.
infrastructure and training and
Mhm.
opportunity through AmSkills. So,
And
Yeah,
there's
Brenda.
over 900. It's probably more now than there were, but when I first started looking into this, there were over 900 manufacturing jobs in the Tampa Bay area. Y'all might have an updated number of that, but those are not major, car manufacturers. They're little, a lot of times, small 1 man, 10 man
Hmm.
operations. And we mentioned Peter Buczynski. He's the one that basically opened my eyes to this. Um, his little shop that I went to see maybe had 10 people involved, and their pharma works provides to industry the manufacturing of blister packs for pills.
Yep.
And so there's very um, minute measuring. They have to develop the machine and make the parts and all that to do these exact measurements so everything comes out right.
Mhm.
And he was saying, I just wish I could have one young man who's interested in learning this, that could sit right here with me and I could
Hmm.
teach it to him. And I
Mhm.
thought, wow, apprenticeships, internships, um, and paid on the job to learn. I mean, these are
Right.
all fantastic opportunities
Mhm.
that the homeschool community just doesn't know about.
So that
So
kind of brings us into the rest of our conversation, or another part of our conversation, where Brenda, we sat in on some committee meetings over the last week, and one of them was about apprenticeships. And I don't want to like poo talk anybody. I did hear it was interesting to hear them start to throw the words around like apprenticeships and mentor programs and things like that, because I think that the colleges in particular are catching on to the need, or that this is potentially the choice people are going to make because it's smart. And they're going to want to instill programs with those buzzwords in them into their facilities so that they can retain some of their. Oh, we have apprenticeships and we have mentorship programs too, and what they involve. I think it's important to make sure that those are vetted carefully. Colleges, it's a business, y'all. Like they want your money, and it is what it is. The businesses also want to make money, right? So just step back and breathe it in and realize, like do the research on where the best opportunities are, and kind of know where some of those places are around you, and that AmSkills is one of them.
Yeah.
And
I think it's important for us to kind of normalize the conversation of when someone is graduating high school, 9 times out of 10, where are you going to college, right? How about we normalize, what are you doing? What's your plans for next year, right? Like just change that question. That one question can change everything in the course of a kid's life, because then they recognize I might not be going to college, but what I'm doing is valuable. And I don't know what you guys have seen, but the people that I went to high school with that went on to get big fancy degrees or even not so fancy, it was the kids that were in technical school, learning how to cut hair, learning how to cook food. They're the ones who own their own business, making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year now, like in their trade, owning their own businesses as entrepreneurs. So I think really being able to normalize that is so essential in
Kim,
especially
say that
in the homeschool
again.
world.
That question that you said, because Raven just says, "OMG, Kim, I love that."
Yeah, what are your plans for next year? And they don't know. Like an 18-year-old kid doesn't know their plans for the future. Like some of us are adults and we don't know what we want to do with our lives, right? Like,
don't let people know that.
But to just say, like, what are your plans for next year? Like, what's your next step? It doesn't have to be college, and it normalizes it and it makes them not feel left out. And I think, talking about your sponsor FPA, like that's one of the things they do really well, because at their graduation, that is one of the things that they do. They allow each student that's graduating to share what their plans for the future are, regardless of if it's military or trade, or some of them are like, I don't know, I'm going to go travel for a while, but it normalizes that idea that not everyone's ready for a big next step, but whatever your next step is your next step in your journey. And that's okay.
I love you for bringing that sponsor in on that. What a connection. Thank you for that. I really appreciate that.
Well, it was the first time I've ever been to a graduation where that's how it was done. It was like in the past I've seen graduation and the slide comes up and it's college, none. Like, what does that do to that kid in that moment, right? It makes them feel not as good as
like, I guess I'm not going anywhere, but other people are.
I've got no plans.
That's how I would have felt.
Yeah. So I just love how FPA does that.
That's
I really like the wording of that question. In the subcommittee meetings that we were watching about the apprenticeships and things, somebody actually brought up the fact that in America, and it's not this way everywhere, but in America, it's almost just given as the only option all through, like from kindergarten on.
Right.
It's assumed that most kids are going to go to college, and it's talked about that way rather than presenting equal options along the path. Like, so as kids are in school, college is talked about way more often than any other option because it's assumed that most kids are going to choose that option. So that was discussed a little bit in one of the subcommittees, because they were wanting to kind of shift that framework to validate these other options from an early age, so that if a kid knows that they want to go into a trade, they aren't being pushed into college their whole educational track.
Right.
I think the trades have always been looked at as dirty jobs. plumbing, electrical.
Not the trademarked
We all
version.
know about those kind of trades.
Yeah.
But we don't know about the newer things that are available in the world and the need for them, and in the trades. I mean, we're going to go trades. This is IT and all kinds of other inclusive opportunities for careers.
Yep.
There are not enough trained people that industry needs. And
Yes.
that's one of the complaints that businesses have. We don't have trained people. And yet there are job opportunities out there, and great job opportunities. I don't know that I have the whole story correct, but this, you can correct me if I got it wrong, Jason or Kim, you were
I'll
there.
see.
They were talking about one of the young men that went to work as an internship for PharmaWorks, and he started off working there and enjoyed it, and now he's traveling Europe doing something, but making lots of money. So you're not stuck.
Right, the ripe old age of his early 20s.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Imagine.
Your talents and your interest will take you into all kinds of things, but the jumping off place is getting these basic trade skills that puts you into that area of work. And I think the thing that's so cool is college is a lot of theory, but trades, you immediately get hands-on experience, and if you like it or you don't like it. And that's kind of leading us into, I think, the next phase of our discussion is, what are we doing to expose kids?
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to take us down a different rabbit hole for a second, but maybe let's not. I really want to, though. Yeah, so what are we doing to expose these opportunities and ideas to children? Well, we've mentioned AmSkills a number of times, and we are preparing a day at AmSkills Discovery Center for all of homeschool parents and children. There are, what did we say? There were about 35 open slots for that day.
There are 35 slots, yes.
And there's 5 stations, I believe, correct? For them to rotate through. We've got it all organized, and we've got a landing page on the website that we've designed. We'll share out. I'll come back and drop it in the link here when we're done. We have to update some of the information on it, but it is January 26th. So it would make a great Christmas present for anybody who's interested in that kind of thing, to come and spend a day building robots and programming them, playing with laser cutting machines and 3D printing and all kinds of other stuff, where they talk about how they machine the parts and how they make these. And they really kind of draw the connection between, for the kids, they draw a connection between the little things that they do. Maybe you have a 3D printer at home. Maybe your kid already plays around with those things. And they kind of help translate that into, here's the skill. Here's how we make parts for machines when we need to fix them. Or here's how this and that come together. And there's a career path for that. And here's what it's called. He mentioned the name of one of the positions, and it paid like $60K a year. And I was like, I had no idea that existed. Like, I was like, I can't even remember the name of what the position was.
I know.
But because it was just so like, I'd never heard it. And I'm like, wow.
Yeah. And what's really cool with Discovery Day is it's geared towards teens. So we're looking at, this is open for teens 14 and up. The idea is that it is going to give them a kind of a springboard to, discover what career opportunities are even out there. And then as we continue to work with AmSkills, they're going to develop even more programs for homeschoolers to be able to dig deeper into the areas that they're interested in. And what's really cool about Discovery Day is they are inviting the parents to stay as well. So for each registered student that is there for Discovery Day, one parent can attend as a free observer. And then you as a parent are able to then really see the experiences that your kids are having and get firsthand knowledge yourself of what these careers even look like. Because if you're anything like me, I had no idea until I walked in there. And even after being there, I still don't fully understand a lot of what they were talking about. So the day is going to be a really cool mix of hands-on experience and educational, opportunities, so just to kind of hear more about what is a manufacturing job? What does that even mean, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to kind of dig into that. And the AmSkills faculty is going to be there sharing
Yep.
their knowledge and expertise. And it's just going to be a really cool day for the kids to really dig into their areas of interest and learn a little bit more about what opportunities are available for them.
Yeah. And it's available to any homeschoolers throughout Florida. You don't have to be. You don't have to be in the area. It'll probably be a lot easier if
Yeah.
you are.
We do have a block of hotel rooms that we booked for a
Yep.
discounted rate. There's a hotel in Odessa. It's a Hampton Inn. It is, less than 15-minute drive to the facility.
Yep.
And that information will be on the website as well. So if you are coming from out of the area and you are in need of somewhere to stay, we did block some rooms, so that way that can kind of help with the cost of getting a hotel room for a little bit cheaper.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But that's exciting, I have to say. I was, this is for boys and girls.
Yes.
It's not something that, I think as we talk, I think sometimes the assumption is that these are kind of like things only boys are interested in, but it's not the case. There's a lot of STEM programs for early education that, my girls love doing their Legos and building things, and my boys do too. So it's kind of one of those things where it can be for whoever wants to come. So there's no like need.
Courtney's kids are on a robotics team, and there's just as many girls on their robotics team as there are
Yeah.
boys, and they think about things differently. So it's interesting to
Sure.
see how a girl's brain processes this type of like logical sequential information in a totally different way than a boy's brain does. So it's kind of fun to see them working together and utilizing their their strengths to help each other become smarter in what they're learning.
It was really interesting to me recently, though. I was working with a young man and mentoring with him, and he was really stuck in his confidence, and he was having a hard time kind of moving on in life, still at home living with his parents in his early 20s, and he's floundering. Let's just state it like it is. And he was like, "Oh, maybe I should go get this degree or go do that. I want to be or a psychologist. I want to help people. I want to do this and I want to do that." And I spoke with him and I was like, you can help people if what you really want to do is help people. You can help people with skills. Like there are things that when you can put your hands on something and build it for them, you can change their lives. Like when there are companies that do wheelchairs for people who are disabled, they have to know how to do all this stuff, right? Like there are so many paths and avenues to helping people that don't have to go that way, straight through the degree path into some clinical field or things like that. There is a direct route if you're willing to get your hands dirty or you're willing to apply some elbow grease to something, develop a skill, and then apply that skill to doing good. And it was like a light bulb went off for him in his head, and he was like, "Really? I never thought of it that way." And it's almost like we've defaulted life and success in life to simply go to school, go to college, figure it out from there.
Right.
And if you're good enough, right, you'll get by.
Right.
And there's a whole real need for people who just have the skills that we need to call on.
Right. And like you said earlier, that's not to say that college is not the path for some people.
Correct.
Even within these fields, like one of the stories that I remember them talking about the day we were there was a young man who went in, didn't know what his future was going to look like, went in, got an internship. He got his certification at AmSkills. Through that, they helped find him a job, basically. He started interning, paid internship at this company, and they saw the worth that this kid had. And after interning with them for a certain amount of time, they sent him to get his mechanical engineering degree for free. They paid for him to go to college, and now he's working with them as a really high level employee, making a significant amount of money with zero college debt. So there's that side of it too. Like college could be for you, but that doesn't mean that you have to go out and be $100,000 in debt to get your degree.
And so many times kids don't know what they want to do. So they go to college and they choose a career. I know that the colleges and universities are trying to do a better job of honing in what they would be good at, but getting your hands on something and seeing, oh, this is for me or it's not for me, then you've got the experience. You can apply the knowledge that you get from college better because you see how it applies to the skills and the career that you're heading into. And I think that's, that's a better order of things than going straight into college. And then you get out and you go, oh, I really don't like this. I really didn't want to be this, but you got this 4-year degree and you got to, I mean, my nephew went to the University of Florida, got a finance degree, could not find a job, and he graduated high in his class. He ended up being a bank teller. I mean, he didn't have to go to college for that. So then he went back to University of Florida, got a master's degree in to be a CPA. He passed the CPA exam. He went to work for a company doing audits as a CPA, and he hated it. So now he's working for a company that, I mean, he's using the skills that he's got, but all of that experience and debt could have been avoided had he known up front what it was that he really liked to do, and he didn't like to sit behind a desk and look at numbers all day. So the fact that there are internships, I mean, I love this Discovery Day because kids really get to know what the career entails, and they either love it or they don't, and they move on to something else. Hopefully, as we build this nonprofit, we're going to have a lot more opportunities for kids to experience different types of careers that are not offered through the state colleges. We're not trying to compete with state colleges or universities. We just want to open the eyes and give kids a vision for what they could do in the future. So we're not going to be doing the training. We're going to partner with hopefully businesses out there that are willing to give them an opportunity to explore.
That's a great point. Let's talk about this nonprofit thing a little bit, Brenda. HEF, the Home Education Foundation, is for lobbying, right? So help me draw the line for people listening between HEF and the nonprofit.
Well, we're still in the process of defining that. We think we have the basis and the basics of that so far. They're created as two separate organizations. The nonprofit I named with something totally different.
Right.
But really the idea was to have them partner together. And most of the work that HEF does is not lobbying, but it has a reputation. It's been out there on the internet for so long. We couldn't change HEF, the Home Education Foundation, to a 501c3. So we had to have two separate organizations, and we're going to change the name from Zeal to Learning. We know that, Zeal for Learning, to something else. We're not sure if our thoughts, we're literally in the process of doing this. But we've got to make sure those names are out there and all the other parts. But we hope that we can set it up in a way that we can use the same website and have just a little section on the website for the lobbying activities, so that we can build out the rest of the website with information about PEP, information about any other legislation that comes our way, is by way of interpretation, explanation of what's going on behind the scenes. But lobbying is actually influencing legislation. So it's really a tiny part of what we do.
It's narrow in scope.
Very, very narrow. And so we're trying to find our way through all of the federal laws and make sure we're not crossing any lines that we shouldn't be. But but we're going to try to bring this into a partnership so that we can continue to do the work through the Home Education Foundation and expand through that portal all the opportunities that we hope to do in the future.
Yeah. So to be clear, or maybe to wrap that part of the conversation up, the HEF is focused on lobbying. We don't want to divert that attention. So the nonprofit is going to come in on the side and continue to do the support for the community, the live streams, the forums. It's going to take on the heavy lifting, so to speak, of managing those relationships and supporting the community, so that the lobbying can be the full focus of HEF. Does that make sense? Is that about right?
Well, it'll be the educational arm.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Speaking of lobbying, we sat in on a very interesting committee meeting. We weren't there physically. We had to catch the replay and make fastidious notes, which I sat next to my wife while we poured over the video, and we were texting back and forth with Brenda and making comments, and like, holy cow, there were some holy cow moments. Let me just say it that way. And I didn't. This isn't one that we initially had watched because the name to me didn't stand out. But the name of this one was called the Choice and Innovation Subcommittee. Lo and behold, it was about the scholarship funding organizations and UA and PEP and things like that. Someone has said recently in a Facebook post, Brenda, you weren't there, and I try to keep you out of the drama.
Thank you.
Kim was there. Kim?
There.
Kim, do you want to open that can of worms for us?
Would you like me to?
Yeah, don't name any
Okay.
names, but
No,
open the
no,
can.
there will be no names.
Sure.
So the assumption was made it's basically a parent support group for those of us who are enduring the UA scholarship and all of the intricacies of that this year. So a comment was essentially made that the Home Education Foundation only cares about the PEP students and has no desire or inclination to support the UA students in any way, shape, or form. I very kindly shared my interpretation of that with them and encouraged them to do some research. But maybe you could share a little bit with people, because I think part of what may be happening is because PEP has been so forefront in there's so many, it's brand new, right? Nobody knows anything about PEP. It's brand new. So there's so many questions and so many concerns and so many things to discuss with it. It has been on the forefront because it's been necessary to be on the forefront. But I think it would be beneficial maybe for people who don't understand kind of the backstory to understand that Home Education Foundation isn't focusing on PEP because it's what they care about. They're focusing on PEP because it's what people need to focus on right now.
It's immediate, right?
Yeah.
It's urgent. So there's a difference between what's important and what's urgent.
Correct.
And PEP has been urgent, and that's primarily because, Brenda, chime in or correct me wherever you feel comfortable. Just interrupt me. But I think it's primarily because of the short window of time in which it was created, launched, then staffed, right? It's been a whirlwind of issues all at the exact same time that, and I didn't know this little tidbit until I listened to the subcommittee meeting, but Step Up for Students, which is the one doing, let's just be honest, most of the lead work here in the state of Florida, they were in the process of switching out their software providers and their customer service providers to take on a new influx of needs and that they were about to be responsible for taking care of. And in the middle of all of those switches, we launched PEP. And PEP is definitely a new crowd. And not only did we launch it, but once UA hit the point where it was full and people are on wait list, the system is being built. People are being switched over to PEP because having some money is better than being on a wait list with no money. And then they're like, oh, wait, they opened UA back up and let's switch back over. There's a million different switches in this system that's being built. It's like fly it while you build it in a way. They already had something in place, but that company that they were with and subsidizing that workload out to in Texas wasn't able to handle. There were complaints and things like that. They're trying to solve that. And in the middle of that was when PEP was launched, July 1st. So PEP took over the conversation for us, at least. It swallowed it up because everyone's freaking out about it. Like everyone has their questions. Everyone wants to know, and rightly so. We all want to know. We all have things we want to know. It's the
what
biggest
people don't
unknown.
know and don't remember is somewhat of the same thing happened back in 2014 when the Gardner Scholarship was a pilot program. And then it worked so well, and there was so much demand for the program over time. We were able to have a lot of input into how parents could spend their money. You know, we came up with horse therapy and other kinds of things that would serve that community. But the discussion was around, well, how do we know that it's not going to create fraud because, you know, your neighbor's letting your child ride their horse? Well, we didn't want to pay that. So we had to come up with like a national certification. I mean, all this stuff took a tremendous amount of time to get those opportunities in place for the FES-UA. And it was on a legacy system. They had worked out the bugs and it was working pretty well. I think that we had very few complaints about the FES-UA. Now, it did reduce the amount of money when they switched it over to the funding stream from the school budget, which I argued greatly against, but there was a balance in there. We had too many people wanting the scholarship, and every year the legislature had to put in a line item in the budget, $50 million more, you know, $75 million more. And they didn't believe that was sustainable over time. So they were trying to find a way to be able to stabilize the funding and make sure that going forward, it couldn't be just stricken out of the budget as a line item. So now it's built in, it's stable. We figured out all of the moving parts. Maybe there's some other therapies that are something that parents want, but really, for the most part, FES-UA is stable. So it wasn't that we were ignoring that. It remained in the legacy system. And that was the original, what do you call it? Computer, what is it, Jason? What's
platform. Software platform. Yep.
That they had worked it on. And so when Emma came in as the new platform in about the early June, oh my gosh, the bugs were unbelievable. Yep. And theoretically, of course, I didn't hear from FES-UA parents. So if you don't tell me there's a problem, I don't know. And we weren't hearing.
You don't have any children in there that you're, putting through the program to vet it.
Yeah.
So, so no, we're not ignoring. We're very interested in every form that a parent has to direct the education of their child. And there was just more upfront work because this was new. We did a lot of this, like I said, back in 14, 15, 16, in trying to define the terms.
You mean like a decade ago?
It does.
That's one of the questions I asked was like,
it is a decade ago.
One of the things I asked in my head, I was like, if you only know about HEF in the last 3 months, I'm sure you can have that opinion. But if you had known any of the work that Brenda has been doing through HEF for the last 30 years, there's no way you could come to that conclusion.
Right. And I think I recognize in the conversation I was having in this Facebook group, it was interesting because I make assumptions about what I know because I know those things, and I forget that most people don't know some of the behind the scenes intricacies that came about to create the PEP to begin with. And one of the things that I was coming across was people making an assumption that the PEP program, you have to lose your home education status to take the PEP, and people were misunderstanding what that means and why that's happening. So they're assuming that PEP is something totally separate, and you're not actually a home educator. And so I correct me if I'm wrong, Brenda, but what I believe happened from when this bill initially came out, what was happening is they wanted to create an opportunity to provide the educational freedom of home education for families that weren't able to afford it. And they wanted to make sure that this opportunity to pull kids out of public schools or to pull them out of private schools was available for people that maybe didn't financially have the resources to do so. However, the wording of the original bill was very confusing, and it muddied the waters of what our rights are of those of us who do have home education status through the statute that was developed by HEF, right? So
was it? Go ahead.
Well, it wasn't HEF. I know it was before HEF. The statute was created by Craig, and so, but so as a home education, like according to the state, for the home educators, there's certain things that I have access to without paying for them, right? Because of that statute, things like having access to classes in Florida Virtual School, dual enrollment, books, that type of thing. So the creation of the PEP and getting rid of your home education status to get the PEP money is to keep it clean for bookkeeping and for legislation, right? So you can be PEP, you're still home educating your kids, or you can be home educating under the statute, but we all fall under the umbrella of educational freedom, home educating our children.
We like to use the word direct the education of the children. So you can direct it under the home education law. You can direct it under PEP. You can direct it in a private school that you can't use your scholarship dollars for, but they still have the freedom to exist, and you have the freedom to choose it. So,
and I think it was, go ahead. I was going to say, I think, you go.
Well, just to follow up on what Kim said, the first bill draft that came out for HB1 put home educators and now the PEP program in the same statute. And yet the parents that took the money had different requirements than those that didn't. And they were all going to be registered at the school district. Can you imagine the nightmare for the districts to figure out who has to pay because they got the money, who gets the free classes? And I could just see in a couple of years, everybody would be required to be one or the other. And so we've always been at HEF, always working toward giving parents as much flexibility, opportunity, and choice as we could. So the thing that made logical sense to me, and this is what I ended up lobbying with the speaker and the governor's office, is let's create a new box. Let's put those people that are getting money in a different box. And then when you down the road, if there are any additional regulations that come on this program, right now there's not very many regulations on the program, and we fought hard for that. But if it does down the road become more onerous, parents can always choose to go back to home education. The statute, we didn't lose any rights by creating a new program.
And Crystal, correct me here because I can't remember his last name, but John, was it Criskel?
Kirtley.
Kirtley. That's what it is.
I wrote
John
it down
Kirtley. He brought up a great point that I was like, man, that's what I've been trying to say the whole time. He said it so well, though, and he talked about on one end, you have power and empowerment of parents to make the decisions, and on the other hand, because money is involved, you have a very real need for fiscal responsibility and accountability. And there is a place where those two things butt heads. there will be a moment where those two things come to a line, and that line is fought over, and we didn't want that line to be fought over. I was speaking for Brenda in HEF here. We were trying to lobby for that line not being fought over on the grounds of home education, that could happen in PEP separately.
Mhm.
That way, wherever that oversight and accountability lands, it doesn't touch home education families.
Yeah, and
Right?
just
They haven't taken the money. They don't need the accountability and oversight. Plain and simple.
just to add to this, because this was in the context of people thinking that HEF only cares about PEP, right?
No. Right.
So in our forum, we have posts that explain why it was divided that way. But when Brenda said that, we've been focusing on PEP because those are the questions we're receiving, I can attest to that. You know, percentage wise, I see hardly any UA parents reaching out to us right now
Very
for
little
questions.
right
And a
now.
flood of people confused about PEP, confused
Hundreds.
about why
Mhm.
they have to terminate their home education program, confused about
Mhm.
what the rules mean, what the statutes say.
Yeah.
And so we've been focusing, and there was a ton of misinformation being spread at first too.
Oh yeah.
And so that was a large reason why we have had so much focus on PEP in the live streams and in the forum, is because
Yeah.
we were trying to counteract the misinformation and the rumors and the panic and all the stuff that we saw circulating in person when we went even to the conference that you hosted.
Yeah.
We were talking to people there, and there was just this current of panic and confusion that we've been
Mhm.
trying to help with, right? To provide clear information and explanations. So that's been, a large reason why we focus so
Putting
much.
out the fire in front of us.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
One of the things people don't realize is the gradual change in statutes which have given parents all the rights that they have right now.
Mhm.
When we started homeschooling, parents were being prosecuted for teaching their children at home. In 1984, there were 5 cases, one of them being in Tampa, and the parents were taken into court for trying to teach their children at home. Many of them had come under a system of private schools, which we now call umbrella schools. They were trying to fall within the law, but let parents teach their children at home. They were being prosecuted. So Craig and I felt like this should be a parental right. We were willing to put our own home and our children on the line to go to the legislature to change the law. HSLDA was not in favor of that. They wanted to win it in the court, but you can't control the outcome of court cases. And so by the end of that year of 1985, when the law passed in the session, we had DOE, the people that were sending out the calls for certain groups to be prosecuted that were private school parents, calling us at home on our home line. So we really risked a lot in those early days to fight for the right for parent. And then eventually, we actually had to pass the law twice because it was passed under a sunshine provision where it came up for review in 2 years. So in 1987, we had to do it again. And then in 89, Dan Webster was able to get the home education students that were the top scholars in a scholarship. That was the first thing that we were able to get. And then fast forward to 1982, 83, parents who had a band in Pensacola wanted their little band to be able to go to the state and be able to compete.
Yeah, nice.
And so that began. And then my son found out that once you entered 9th grade, you couldn't play competitive sports. And we started working on the extracurricular activities. Took 3 years to get it passed. And then it was Bright Futures, and then it was Florida Virtual. I served on the advisory board of Florida Virtual and lobbied for them to create people. The legislators were saying, a virtual what? I mean, it's like, in those days, people didn't even have computers at home,
Right.
many people. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like career and technical. They couldn't get their mind around you could have a school online. So it's been a gradual fight over the years to
And it comes,
create the many opportunities that families who teach their children at home under the homeschool law now enjoy. And one of my main things was I didn't want to bring the money home, because as soon as you do, you've brought accountability into your home.
there you
So
go.
the opportunities that I created were always left
Go and access.
with the institution. Florida
Mhm.
Virtual, you apply, you get it free. You don't get the money and buy it. Now we
Right.
created something that's different, and I think we'll be able to protect the PEP parents. But at that time, that wasn't true, because we still hadn't really come into our own as recognized parents that were capable of teaching their own children without degrees. So, parents don't know the history. The new ones that have come in, they can complain and gripe. But let me tell you,
30 years before
freedoms that
PEP,
they
Brenda was there.
enjoy. What?
I said 30 years before PEP, Brenda was there.
35 or more years,
35.
85, and
Yep.
golly, we're coming up
Wow.
on 40 almost.
If I've said it once, I've said it a million times. Every single parent in the state of Florida who home educates their kids owes you a personal thank you. Every single one of them.
I agree. That's why I'm
And if
here
they're
with
going
you.
to enjoy the kind of fights that we've done over the years, they
Mhm.
need to contribute. I'm not good at asking for money.
I'll ask for you, don't worry.
$5 a month by
Mhm.
every parent in the state of Florida. Heck, if we had $1 a month from every parent in the state of Florida,
No way.
Sure.
$10. Every
we would have
Go
plenty
down,
of
so
money
Brenda.
to support the work that we're doing here.
It's a
I mean,
lot.
we struggled to
It's a
pay
lot.
for a website before Jason came on board.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
if you don't have those tools to
Mhm.
get the information out,
Yeah.
then Jason came in
You
and
know
said,
what's funny?
"You don't have a present." I said,
I did. I didn't mean to be rude, but I have to be honest. Like, it's one of my big pet peeves in dealing with everything that I do is honesty is just not up for grabs for me. And I was like, okay, you don't have a presence. Like, we have to start there and fix it. So, um, it dawned on me listening to the subcommittee that it's very important that when we have these conversations and we're lobbying and we're putting the will and the heart and the soul of home educating families in front of legislators so that they can be informed and make good decisions. It dawned on me, one, and this is no slight, and I don't mean it as a slight to any of the legislators, but they don't know, right? They
Exactly.
just don't know. And that was very apparent to me through the questions they were asking. Sometimes I'm like, you wasted a moment to ask a question, asking that. Like, you could have asked so many better questions. It just dawned on me that they don't really know
right.
really what it's like being a home education family. And I was very thankful for John Kirtley because he laid out so much of, I don't even really understand how he's involved with Step Up, but he has a grasp on the parents'
Let me
minds.
tell you how he's involved.
Okay.
John Kirtley is the person who moved Florida into all the choice programs except for the McKay. He raised the money to get the schools to accept the scholarships. He is the financier behind all of these scholarships. He raised money across the
Whoa.
nation. I mean, he is Mr. Choice.
Okay. Well, he
And
gets the
Yeah, that
need
was
for
evident.
parents.
That was evident in the
Mhm.
meeting. He was very pro empowerment of parents, pro choice.
And
of
whenever
parents.
he broke down the answer about when one of the legislators asked, well, why does a parent need uh, a field trip to a theme park and why do they need a big screen TV? His answer and how delicately he answered, but how thoroughly he laid out what it looks like to really be a UA parent, a home educating parent. Like, my heart went out to him because he did it. And he laid it out true to form. And I appreciated that. But it's dawned on me that they don't know the legislators don't really understand the situation, but they're making the decision. So they need people there like us to lobby for them and inform the process as it goes. And on our end, what we need is data. We need to be able to point to data and voices, voices that can echo one another in uniformity. And one of the reasons why we came on is we wanted to make sure the website had a forum. We haven't created the forum by mistake. It was created on purpose. It's there not only for parents to go and gripe and moan or to connect with each other and share good ideas, but we have now got the director of PEP at Step Up for Students has eyeballs on one of the forum threads specifically so that we can collect feedback for them from our parents and get it right into like triage issues that they can resolve. Having the data of interaction and seeing how many parents say this or how many parents liked that forum post or this forum post or that answer that a parent had when it comes to this idea that they had, it helps shine a light on issues that are main to us and issues that are important, to have that kind of raw data to point to and say, this is how many thousands of upvotes that had, or this is how many eyeballs that had, or here's how big our community is, etc. And so my vision for HEF and its growth is to fill that forum full of parents all across the state of Florida that can be helped, that can connect with one another, that have a place that lives, that's not going away tomorrow. Facebook may decide that they just don't want any of this right-wing conspiracy stuff or whatever they want to call it or pipe it. They don't want any of it, and we don't own Facebook. They can turn it off tomorrow. But we own the website and the forum, so that's ours, right? And
If I
that's
can
something
just add to that really quick, we do have an FES-UA section in our forum
we do.
that hardly anybody even interacts in. The
Mhm.
PEP section of our forum gets a lot of traffic.
Correct.
But so if you're a UA parent and you're watching this, please join our forum and interact there. Post your questions and concerns there because we want you to. It's just for whatever reason the UA parents don't seem to be aware of the the existence of our forum as much, but it's there and we want you to interact on it.
Jason, do you think maybe you can post a direct link when you're done in the comments here, just to make it easy for those parents to grab
To the
that?
forum. So
Yeah.
every time the live stream starts, there's a pinned comment at the top that has a direct link to the forum
Okay.
and a direct link to the support part of our website.
Yeah,
So
and
that
the
they can
FES-UA
access
section
either.
is clearly marked. It's
Okay.
actually like
Yeah.
there's a scholarships and then there's a FES-UA under that.
Yes, the great
Okay.
question. Thank you for asking that. Delene says, are these videos, I'm assuming she's meaning the streams that we're doing now, available on the HEF website? Because I know someone with a 16-year-old homeschooler, but she isn't on social media. I mean, Delene, if you think that it's important to put these on, video hosting is a challenge when it comes to website load speeds and traffic volume. We don't want the site to crash. These file sizes get huge. So we do host the videos on YouTube. They're primarily broadcasted on Facebook right now, but I could throw them on something like Rumble as well if that would make sense to have them accessible. But yeah, they're accessible right now on Facebook and YouTube. And there's a playlist on YouTube called Ask Brenda, Chats with Brenda. And that's where most of these videos are held. So if there's a need beyond that, just reach out to us directly through email and we might be able to come up with another method as well of getting them out there. I can add that to it. But right now, our plan is to kind of do that with them. We are getting on in time. And before we do that, we have promised.
We address, we
Yes,
promised to
that's where I'm
talk
going.
about.
Yeah. We promised
So
to address one of the issues that kept coming up in different Facebook groups. Another hot topic. Crystal, you can go ahead and take that one.
yeah, so I'm seeing a lot of just concern and rumors that, and not just for PEP, it would also apply to UA, but primarily I'm seeing this from PEP parents. The concern that they are going to continue because of all the complications with reimbursements and they're taking forever to process and all of that. The rumors that are going around are that they're just going to do away with reimbursements altogether and they're going to force us to purchase, and this was all a conspiracy basically to force everybody to purchase through my scholarship or think that's the general vibe of the concerns and rumors that are being spread. So I just wanted to put parents' minds at ease a little bit. I mean, we aren't the legislators and we don't make the decisions, but the vibe that I got from the subcommittee meeting that we watched was very much in favor of preserving as many choice options and flexibility for parents as possible.
Yeah.
There was no discussion in that meeting of limiting parent choice and flexibility to make things easier. In fact, all of the discussion was more toward how do we support Step Up in AAA in handling this massive task so that we can preserve parents' flexibility and freedom of choice for their students to choose the educational path that works best for their students.
Yeah, and John Kirtley from Step Up for Students came out at least once or twice and stated that he's not advocating for that. He put out there that the choice and the choice and the accountability, kind of run in tandem, but at some point they'll collide. But he's not advocating for limiting the parents' choices. That was reassuring to hear.
Yeah, so I just wanted to share that I was reassured by the general mood or vibe in the meeting that they really are wanting to preserve that flexibility of choice for parents.
Yeah,
Right.
one of the
And what that
legislators.
Go ahead.
I was going to say one of the legislators also in particular, very near to when John said that, came out and said, "We like the way you're handling it. We kind of appreciate the ambiguity and the vagueness and the way that you're handling that with allowing the parents to have their choice and flexibility." And that, I think that
They
was
were
kind of
talking specifically about instructional materials at that point and
Yeah.
how they interpret it. AAA interprets it more narrowly than Step Up for Students. That may be a reason for parents to choose one over the other.
Consider that one.
You get more hands-on care from AAA than you're going to get from Step Up, and sometimes working with big computer systems and people that are not familiar with home education is frustrating, but there are pros and cons for both of them.
Right.
And a parent just needs to choose which one fits them the best. And let me make a point here, Crystal,
Please.
is that people can fear a lot of things, but what actually counts is what's changed in statute. And so we need to look carefully. That's what we do when a bill is thrown out there in the making. Are they going to take away that little phrase that says, or parents can be reimbursed for items not in the marketplace? It's not worded exactly like that, but that's the idea. So when the legislature created this, with all knowing as much as they did about the programs, they said you have the right to create a platform like a scholarship, making it easy both for parents who don't want to put the money out up front and for the scholarship funding organizations to be able to direct pay. They said you can do that, but you can't limit parents' choices in curriculum. So it's right in the statute. So we have to make sure that one line isn't stricken in the next bill that comes up.
And that's something that we are actively watching for. It's why we're watching all of these subcommittees to get the vibe for what might be coming in the bills that they propose, and staying on top of that.
Yes, absolutely. Well, we are on in time. I want to say, oh wait, somebody just commented. Let me see. It's not. I watched the meeting in Tallahassee, and I have 2 UA kids. I think the worry is that AAA and Step Up have to have the same purchasing, and AAA seems to not approve a lot of things.
So, I wanted to address that too. We were talking about it before we went live, actually.
Go ahead.
Yes, they have until December 31st to agree on a purchasing guide. The DOE is overseeing that process. Brenda has been in contact with the DOE directly to advocate for, certain things. I don't know if Brenda wants me to give the details of what she's asked them, but we are staying on top of that process as well. But
Mhm.
if you want to have a voice as a parent, Brenda was suggesting now would be the time to reach out to the people on that subcommittee,
Mhm.
um, and communicate with them your concerns about spending caps, about the purchasing guide, any of that, because they have until the 31st to finalize things. And the people on that subcommittee were, some of the questions they asked because they had heard from their constituents and they were trying to clarify some concerns. So those contacts do matter. They are hearing those, and they are communicating with Step Up in the DOE based on what they're hearing from all of you, all the parents. So that's one way that you can help if you are concerned about something happening with the purchasing guide.
Yes, do
Reach
that.
out now to the people on that subcommittee and voice your concerns.
Also, reach out on our forum. Like,
Yes.
there's a place there. You guys can create threads too, and if you want something to be important there, and you want to keep it, by all means, think of it like an open letter that you can all sign by just going yes please, right?
Yeah. And that gives
Um,
us something to show whenever we reach out, where we
the
can
data
say,
that I
like,
was talking about.
we
Yes.
have 200 parents who all express this concern.
Or 5,000.
Or
Yeah.
5,000. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Here's the post.
That's probably a better number.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
just saying, even a small concern, even if we can go with 200, and we're like, and this is just the subset of parents who are actually in our forum.
Right.
Like, even that makes a difference.
I loved listening to John. Am I fanboying? I don't know. I maybe I should stop. But there was a moment where what you just said made me think of something he said, where he was talking about the number of reimbursements and the number of accounts that they're processing, and how 1% error rate on that number is still a couple thousand parents. And he said, and still we're gonna work to do our best to resolve every single one until they are, because they're not just numbers, they're people. They're people with children and choices, and that matters to us. And it just, I don't know, man. He won me over, okay? I like what he had to say. And I think that if parents, it's a 2-hour committee meeting. Shara, was it Shara here? Who asked where they can watch them. I posted a link here of where we found that one. But ultimately, if you go to myfloridahouse.gov and you click on the house schedule, the calendar that's there, you can click through all the different days and see on any given day what meetings are there. And some of them they're live streamed. They're live streamed, but they also keep a web archive of those, and so you can watch them there. I'm contemplating doing watch through reviews with Brenda, where we watch through them and then like earmark certain parts and then go back and have a conversation over them, upload the video. That's a lot of extra work I got to get Brenda to do. If we're going to do that, it is something I would like to do, but that comes down to time and money as well. So the more support and things that we want to do for our community are there, but we do need help funding them. What were you going to say, Crystal?
Oh, I was just going to say, if anybody is wanting to go to the house schedule and find the ones we talked about, the Choice and Innovation Committee was the one that Step Up and AAA were all present for. And then we watched some that were about the mentorships and apprenticeships and all of that. Those all happened on the 13th. So you'll need to click on that day on the calendar, and all the archive links to those videos are there.
That's a great point. The link that I posted actually has the 13th embedded into the hyperlink, so it'll pull up the 13th.
Okay.
But
if you're going manually, make sure you select that day.
Yeah, that's correct. True. But yeah, so as I was saying, there's so much more that we even want to do. We have the vision for doing to support the home education community here that Brenda has worked so hard over the last 30 years to make a reality. The reason why home education even exists. So if you can, hop on over to our website, flhef.org/support, and share it. Participate in that, and then also share it help us raise the funds that we need. Like I said, we're about a third of the way there for what we intended for phase one. So we've got quite a bit of ways to go. We're not in clear waters. Like we're in need, and you can help us with that. By all means, please help us get the word out and help get the word out to all as many families as you know that home educate. If you're a part of a co-op or an umbrella school or a home education instructional program or just friends from church who all do your own thing or whatever it is, help spread the word about us, that we're here, that we have resources in Facebook groups. Just copy paste the link, tell them to watch and tune in. We're going to continue to do the live feeds each Monday. I've cleared that and pushed the schedule forward, so those are going to stay a thing, and we're here for you. It's not easy though, and it does take funding and work. So we would appreciate the support. I know Brenda would appreciate the support. She's done this for 35 plus years without support, and it's time to up the game and carry the torch forward. So thank you for all that you do, Brenda.
Yes, Brenda, thank you.
All right. I think that's it as far as conversations we owed our community, because we were like, okay, we'll take care of that. We got to mention this. We got to mention that. I think that's about it. Anything to wrap up, Kim, Brenda, Crystal?
Just be sure and check out the link or
We'll drop that.
page for the upcoming AmSkills Discovery Day. And please spread the word. We'd love to have 35 students show up that are looking for something outside of the normal path for college.
January 26th is the date. We're going to put up posts and stories. I'll come back here and drop a link on this video as well. So you shouldn't have any trouble finding the information if you're following us on social media at all. We're going to pipe it out so that it's easy to find for everybody. And if people see it and go, well, what is that? Point them back to the video. Kim?
And you can come follow us at TBHC Group as well and get the information there. We are going to be sharing information about the 2024 conference. It has not been officially announced yet, but being that we're here with Brenda, it feels only right to drop a save the date of July 20th, 2024 for the Tampa Bay Homeschool Conference.
You heard it first.
The same management, but new management. There's been a new organization created to manage the growth and health of the event, as well as just overall support of the homeschool community, specifically in Tampa Bay, and then reaching out from there. So TBHC Group. Fantastic. And all the info will be there.
Very cool. And come back, if you can, come back on the live and drop your stuff in using your page so that people can follow you and track you back for that as well. Kim, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. It was lovely, as always.
It's been a pleasure.
Yep, for sure.
Absolutely. Brenda, anything before we go?
No.
Anything else?
We covered it all.
All right. Well, listen, all of you beautiful people out there, loving your families and directing as parents and leading the way and building society one child at a time. Thank you for all of the effort that you put in. And we know how much work it is. We truly know how much work it is. We appreciate you. We're going to hit our top sponsors one more time. Thank you, FPEA, for being with us through all of this as well. And without further ado, we're going to bring our stream to a close. Once again, thank you all for being here with us. Happy Monday.